Phone check.
Hello,
1, 2.
hello.
What up? Welcome to another episode of the Blockument.
Welcome.
Crypto education through everyday conversations. I'm not still.
Yeah, still waking up, guys. We're here early.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? My name's Nate Talbot. I'm the executive director of Detroit Blockchain Center, and to my right is
Ashlee Rose. I am your everyday mother. I'm an online reseller. I am on a journey to figure out what in the heck is all of this crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin business about.
Yes, and then to her right, we got a special guest today. We have Rhyan Neco. Hey, Rhyan.
Hey, Nate. Hey, Ashlee.
Hey.
Ryan's got some special stories to tell us on the topic that we'll get into shortly. But some user insights for all of those out here.
A story for all of us to learn from.
Story of the ages to learn from.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't be like me, essentially.
No. Be like her. And we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
But before we get all into that, let's see where we at right now. Where are we at right now, Ashlee? What block height are we at?
We are at block number. Oh, wait. Okay, new one just came through the pipeline here.
Nice.
All right, we are at block 811,228. The block size is 1.15 megabytes, which is comprised of 1,010 transactions. The total subsidies and fees for that are 6.362 Bitcoin, which equates to $177,090 US. The miners that won that are via BTC again.
That's right. We had some
It's the beauty of a
interesting block drama about a week ago. And here I copied and pasted the block in. Block 809,478. There was an invalid block. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, boy.
You know what that means, right?
No.
Not
Tell
much.
us.
Not much.
Wait,
really.
can I guess?
Yes.
Does that mean that it was somebody who won the block had like a wrong copy, and then like everybody else's consensus was like, nope?
No, that actually happens all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, that was my
This
guess.
was an actually invalid block.
This is a what?
Invalid block. It was not. It was mined the first time by Marathon Mining.
The gas company? Oh, okay.
No. The mining company. They so there's this thing, right? Remember, the block is just all the transactions that's happening, right? It's just
record
a bunch of rows.
transaction.
So according to the Bitcoin protocol, they're time stamped, right? So it's basically about if I send you Bitcoin and then you take that same Bitcoin and send it to Ryan, right? Mm-hmm. So it keeps a order, so that way it doesn't confuse thinking you sent Ryan the Bitcoin before I sent it to you.
Right.
See how that works?
Right.
And so while it's not necessarily, to my understanding, the most efficient method, for whatever reason it's in there, it's based off of these timestamps, right? It's got to be ordered in a certain way. And apparently Marathon was experimenting with different ways to build a block.
Oh, boy.
And
They was
they
time
didn't think
traveling.
they would.
Yeah, something.
And they didn't think they didn't think they were going to win that block because it was like apparently just some small hash rate they were putting towards it. They were only using a little bit of energy for it.
Oh.
But that won the block. And it was an invalid block. Everybody's, sort of what you said, everybody's node rejected it because they're like, whoa, this isn't in the right order.
Yeah.
You know, right? It's A, B, C. B spent to C before A spent to B.
They time traveled the blockchain.
They tried. They tried to go back to the future.
Interesting.
But that shows, again, the resiliency of everything, right?
Yeah.
All the blocks rejected it.
So
it
their
was
experiment
remined.
failed.
Foundry ended up winning it, and boom. There you go.
That's safe.
Yep. But it did cause some confusion.
Do we know what they were like experimenting?
How are they
with?
doing? Yeah, what were they doing?
Not sure.
Yeah.
They just said they were experimenting. I don't know what the purpose
yeah,
or any of that
Dun, dun,
was.
dun.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone
So-
who gets caught doing something they're not supposed to, I was just experimenting.
Experimenting.
So today's episode, right? What are we
Yes.
talking about today? What are we talking about today?
Should you trust or verify?
All right.
Yeah.
So my main man at Detroit Beer Company, right? One of our true Bitcoiners who earns it, doesn't buy it necessarily, right?
Yep.
He likes to always mess with me and says, "Trust, don't verify."
Why?
Well, I don't know. You tell me why. So what do you think?
'Cause it's
what do you
easy?
think? Should you trust or should you verify? What do you
Well,
think?
should. I mean, that's, everyone
This is
should.
the age of knowing,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Not the age of believing.
Yeah.
True that.
Well, I'd like to think that's. I fall victim to believing, but that's why I'm here. I'm learning about verifying.
Me too. We all. I'm just. I feel like you shouldn't. You should trust them as far as you can throw them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of us got a pretty good arm. Might be able to. I can check a couple people if they're small enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, trust or verify. That is the question, and that is really sort of the whole premise of the entire.
Well, what's his case for
Space.
trusting? Just because it's easy?
Well,
And like trust the people who've been down the road already or something? Like trust the experts, or
do you drive?
do I drive? Yes, I drive.
What do you drive? A car, right?
Car, yeah.
All right. Has a
And
car
an occasional
ever,
horse.
A car and a horse. Has the car ever broke down on you?
Yes.
Can you fix it?
Absolutely not.
So you bring it to the mechanic, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you know they did what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because we verified if the place is legitimate.
Oh, but then that's still you were verifying that you're able to trust them.
Yeah.
Right. We did leave our hands or our car in the hands of the mechanic.
Of a stranger.
Yeah.
And that's how most things in history has gone, right? We went from being a species that really only focuses on like two things, like eating and making sure we don't die from the environment. Mm-hmm. Then society got built and people started specializing, right? I would specialize in hunting. You might specialize in growing food. Ryan might specialize in making clothes. And so we stopped being so much generalists and we started being specialists. And
Yeah.
you trusted that I was going to eat. I would trust that I was going to
Hunt.
get the food and
Yeah.
hunt. I would trust you would give me the proper wardrobe for it, and you would provide supplement from when I fail. You got the backup. And same thing happens with like money, right? This is where banks and stuff come from.
Yeah.
If you're going to, whether it's grain or sand or gold, you're not going to lug all of your wealth around with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And you didn't trust, you're not hard to break into, not hard to infiltrate home to store all your wealth when you're away.
Right.
So you would trust, used to be like temples and stuff. And that's where you would go, and that was like the first banks. Right? So there's a lot of need
So
for
you'd give
trust.
them your gold and they'd give you a fun coupon?
They give you a fun coupon. Go have fun getting this back.
Yeah.
But yeah, they so there's a lot of reasons for you to have trust. This is where institutions come from. You need trust of something. We need a common trusted knowledge because all of us can't be area experts in
Yeah.
every single topic in life.
And that's where I guess con men would come in, because then you'd be like, oh, I'm supposed to trust this person who seems trustworthy, and then boom, they take you for everything you got.
That's exactly what happens. Common come in and you trust them.
You're like, oh, I'm a specialist, and then
Then the government comes in and
you
says,
know.
don't worry, we'll protect you. We'll regulate them. But then we're just trusting the government. You're just shifting the
Right.
trust.
yeah.
So the idea, one of the core ideas when Bitcoin was first launched was what if you just took trust out of the equation, right?
Yay.
So, yay. So the old saying as far as, Bitcoin is concerned is don't trust, verify. And notice that's important. And as we were even talking about the name of the show, we were talking about like how to word it properly,
Right,
right? And that's
yeah.
important. It's not, the saying isn't not
Why
trust,
not trust?
verify. It's like, don't trust. Like, there's not even a need to trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's trustless. And so if you have a system, like we were just talking about banking, right? Or whatever, you have to, how do you know I'm really keeping the money where I say I'm going to keep it? Mm-hmm. Right? You got to trust my records and all that. But what if you didn't have to trust my records? What if you had open access and you could verify with everybody else who's using that same system of the access, right? The example I try to play, like people play poker or some kind of card, spades, whatever. They're familiar with like keeping score. Mm-hmm. Usually have a scorekeeper, but it's like, all right, I don't know. My memory isn't that good to remember that. So you keep the score, but I'm just keep my own copy.
Yeah.
And then you're over here like, well, if you're both keeping a copy of the score, I'm going to keep copy of the score.
Now we all verify.
And then every few rounds, it's just like, all right, Ryan, you're the official scorekeeper. What's the score? You're like, well, I'm winning. All right, mine says you're winning too, and that's just like, yeah. All right, we all come to consensus. You are the winner.
Yeah.
So this is how blockchain works. This is exactly how blockchain works. The whole idea why you hear people say, not your keys, not your coins, because your keys is your access to your coinage, and that allows you to see and run in your own node. That allows you to see your own scorecard, your own copy. You don't have to trust everybody else. But unfortunately, that's not really, really simple. And this is sort of why I brought Ryan
I was
here.
going to say.
Because as many millions, unfortunately, especially in this last the last bull run cycle we just had, 2020-22, millions and millions of people found how hard it was to verify, which is a problem we have in the space, a technical problem. It's not any user's fault.
Yeah, the hard way.
It's the hard way. You learn the hard way. And you're forced to trust. All right? And so, Ryan, first of all, tell the world a little bit about who Ryan is. Who are you?
Who are you?
Well, Ryan is a everyday person. A person who does not specialize in Bitcoin. A person who has a W-2 and all these kinds of things that, our average American has. No background in Bitcoin, no background in finance per se. I'm just me.
We love that.
For being you.
Yeah. So, outside of, that's who I am. I mean, that's who I'm not, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not a Bitcoin expert. I'm not a finance expert. I am a truster. One who trusts.
And, a lot of people might say, especially in this arena, it was like, well, it's your responsibility to learn. But I just would point out as we get into this conversation about your story.
Yeah. I don't want to spend time on that when I'm spending time on so many other things. It's just how I prioritize.
Well, and culturally, now that you pointed out about like the mechanic and specializing and stuff, like we culturally just are like wired to trust, it seems.
Well, right. And
or conditioned, maybe not wired, but
exactly. And we just at the top of the show we used mempool.space to look at the last block, right? Some people would say, see, you're verifying. That's the name of it, mempool.space. And some people would say, see, you're verifying. Except this isn't connected to my local node. This is connected to mempool space. So all that information we just read off, we're trusting the developers of mempool.space. Now I could run this locally on my own node, on my own computer, with my own data, but I'm not a programmer. I can't write the code. This is open source code, but it doesn't mean I can read it. So I'm still trusting that the developers, right, or that other developers who have looked at the code, I'm trusting in numbers, right? Well, enough people had their eyeballs on it, but it's still trust. I'm not verifying. So as we get into the stories, for all the listeners, especially the ones who are like, you should have just... Yeah,
it's so easy to
think of how detailed. What can you really, really verify? How deep can you verify something?
Even just like on everyday stuff, like we were saying, the mechanic.
Like the mechanic, right? Even if you know what you're doing, even if you're a mechanic and bring it to another mechanic, right?
Yeah.
How do you know they use the right piece? How do you know they?
They show me my dipstick every time, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
You don't know if it's your dipstick. Prove it's yours.
Yeah. I'm still sitting in the car on the other, on the other side of that windshield.
Right. So, what happened, Ryan? What happened to you? Why?
So I was trying to do the right thing, the smart thing, by investing in Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin. I think like at a weekly basis or maybe every bi-weekly. I was purchasing it. I never did it with my own node or my own wallet. I was always trusting, buying it through Bitcoin, and then through Cash App. That's how I went. And then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, have you heard of Celsius?" And I was like, "No." And we're looking at Celsius, and we're like, "Oh, you get to collect interest on your Bitcoin if you store it here."
Right.
So also, through your talks and things, like you just invest in or, buy your Bitcoin, leave it. You don't touch it. You don't do anything with it. So I'm just like storing it. Get maybe a couple grand worth. And I'm like, well, if you're going to collect interest on it, why not just put it on all of it. Collect interest on as much as you can. So take all of your Cash App Bitcoin, throw it into Celsius.
Right.
And then one day I go and try to get my Celsius because I think we were talking about a wallet. So I wanted to like put it in my wallet.
Yeah, you're going to self-custody.
Yeah. And then I couldn't access it. And then we started doing some research and Celsius had gone, like they're in bankruptcy court and all kinds of boo-boo, foo-foo, slew.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this was like a day or two after everything started to come to light with the whole Celsius thing. And if you don't know Celsius, they are a centralized service, right? And they promised people, hey, if you give us your Bitcoin, right, you could just sit there and sit on it.
Right.
But who wants to do that? That's not fun. Let's
put
make
your
some
money to
free
work.
money.
They banked it out. They banked me out.
Yeah. They promised this yield.
Yeah.
And they say, look, we'll give you, I think there were so many that went bust. So I'm going to give you very general. I don't know if this was Celsius's thing, but most of them were like this. So it was started off with like, hey, if you give us X amount of Bitcoin, we'll give you 5% yield year over year, right?
Yeah, and it makes sense to do that.
Why does that make sense, though?
Because we're programmed to know banks.
The story that they're saying.
We bank heads, but not from Bankhead Atlanta, but we're bank heads.
Exactly. Our bank heads, we are programmed to say it. And why does it make sense to you?
Because if you can put your money somewhere and it's sitting and growing, why would you not do that?
Well, because the number one question you have to ask yourself, right?
What are they doing to grow it?
Yeah, where is that 5% coming from?
They
Nothing's free.
Yeah,
they fondling it.
I would. Yeah, so I was basically just like ignoring that. I was basically like just kind of putting it on a parallel to banks. Like, okay, the banks, they'll put it in like, I don't know, stock markets or loan it out as like for a mortgage or something, and then they make a % back, and then that's how they make their money.
Okay, a bank, how do they do it? Where does the money come from?
They put it out on the stock market and fondle it.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, they gamble with your money. They loan it out to other people. They put it in their own. This is one of the reasons, one of the dirty little secrets of refunds, right? When you go purchase something, right? How long does it take for the money, from the time you hit buy, how long does it take for the money to come out of your account?
Seconds.
When you decide 30 seconds later, no, I don't really want it, and I want a refund, how long does it take to put the money back in your account?
3 to 5 business
days, yeah.
If you're lucky, 3 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes 10 to
10,
30 or more. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, because, like I tell people all the time, that's electronic money. It's not digital money, right? It's still using the rails. Like when you go to make the purchase, a bank is just updating their ledger, and then they got to send that to another bank so they can update their ledger, and it takes a while. But the other reason is your money is earning this interest. It's in their best interest. If for them, because they're loaned it out, right? So I'm the bank. Ryan's deposited some money. You need some money, Ashlee. So I convinced Ryan to give me some money, right? Now let's say 5% yield, which is stupid high, is sort of where we're at right now, but that's stupid high. I say, all right, I'll give you 5%, and then you come to me and say, hey, I need some money. I'm going to lend you Ryan's money, right? at 15, 20, 30%, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give Ryan a very small fraction of that.
Yeah.
Well, I run out. When everything has to get reversed, I'm not going to instantly withdraw it. The amount of money I have in there, 1 or 2 days,
Yeah. Makes a
3 to
difference.
5 days, that's in bulk. It's millions of extra dollars they
Yeah.
can make just by making you wait an extra
Just
2
by
to 3
holding
days
your
for
money
your money.
hostage, yeah.
Right.
And then the other thing that they do is, can't they just like call up the Federal Reserve and be like, hey, I need some more money? And that's how they make the interest?
It's not that simple. You know, banks are the ones who actually
I feel
print
like
the
it
money.
is that simple nowadays. I don't
Feels
know.
that simple. They don't. Well, here's the thing: they don't have to call the Federal Reserve.
What do you
Banks-
mean?
We'll make an episode of how banks work, but in general,
You're not saying they're
banks-
printing their own money, are you?
Yeah, banks print the money. Banks actually are the ones that printing the money. Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The not
yeah.
the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve prints debt. Banks
Okay.
print money.
I see where you're going with that.
So we'll do a whole deep inside. So it was a day or so right as this was all coming to light. Ryan's like, "Hey, I'm ready to do my own wallet."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Why can't we get this money out of here?" Yep. Celsius had froze all accounts, but that's because, again, why are they giving you 5%? They're lending out your Bitcoin. They're doing other things with the Bitcoin. You've given them your Bitcoin,
Yeah.
in hopes to get that back plus a little extra. And
Yeah.
while they held it,
Yeah. If they've
They
got
just went
custody, they
and
can do
did other
whatever they
things.
want. Yeah.
not your keys, not your coins.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, that's sort of what happened. So
That
where are you
stinks.
at now with all that, Ryan? What's the scenario?
So now I'm just getting these weekly. I subscribed or whatever to the update to receive the court documents, and they're just coming to me all willy nilly every couple days. Just updates, motions being filed, addendums being added, appearances being made. Just a bunch of court docs. They're just in the middle of a. I don't know when I'm going to get my money back. They don't even know when the court date's going to end. It doesn't seem like. It's just filing upon filing upon filing. It's been happening for over a year now, I believe. Was that?
Oh yeah,
About a year
about
ago?
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that one
at
belly
this
up.
point, I guess I'm here today to get my motivation back.
Motivation. We good at that.
Because I feel like forget it now. I just lost a couple grand that I really wasn't trying to spend anyway. I was just trying to do the smart thing.
Right,
Because
right.
I unfortunately am a person who, because I don't really understand the blockchain. I mean, I do, I get it, I see it, but my vision isn't there. So I'm like, just trying to do what's right for the future, but I don't necessarily believe. I'm trusting people that I believe to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so because I never really believed anyway, I'm like that, not that Bitcoin visionary. I'm just like,
Yeah. It sounds like you're a little bit like where I was in a sense that like I understand that it makes sense, but I don't know how it makes sense. Does that kind of sound
Yes.
like similar?
yeah, no, I know why it makes sense, but I don't understand. Like, I know that, like, you have to keep up, right? There's things you have to keep up. You have to have multiple forms of income. You have to have, options. Having options, especially financial options, like different currencies. That seems like a smart idea in general. So even though it's this form of currency that I don't really understand, I know, and I've seen, and I've worked in spaces where people believe it, they live off of it, that it's real. So just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not reality. So yeah, invest in Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, make sure you can, have something. If it all goes, if anything, we've seen crashes before. We're not that old. I mean, we're not that young, where we haven't seen economic crises.
Yeah.
So why not be prepared in every way you can?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's do a couple clarifying points. first, the thing, one phrase I try to get away from, I have been getting away from, and I don't use it, and I check myself whenever I do catch myself using it. I don't tell anybody to buy Bitcoin, because you're not buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, but that's why I keep trying to, I'm like, not invest, but I keep correcting it to buy, but I know that's wrong too.
Well, right. And it's not that it's necessarily, it is wrong, but none of this stuff is your fault, right?
Would it be like buying into?
It's not the end user's fault. It's the people like me who've been around for a while, and in teaching people about things, narratives are easier to help people understand things than like hard facts, right? I can come start talking to you technically about Bitcoin and how it technically works, and well, see, there's this distributed ledger, and there's this Byzantine generals problem that solves this double spend, and I've probably put both of you half to sleep already. So we build these stories around these narratives, right? Yeah. And like a catchphrase I use at the end of every show here, right? Come for the riches, stay for the revolution. The money part is what draws people in. And it is a good way to build generational wealth. This is one of those rare opportunities, but there's a downside in having those narratives, I'm telling you, hey, look, Bitcoin is the way for you to make a bunch of purchasing power. Yeah. Which is another clarifying point. I don't want you to make like a bunch of money. I don't want you to make a bunch of dollars. The whole point is to get away from the dollar.
Right.
Right. But if I'm coming at you with this economic incentive, when somebody like, Celsius comes around and it's like, hey, remember that thing that's making you a lot of money, that Bitcoin thing? What if I can make you even more of that? Right. Well, I've already aligned you to have that mindset to want to go to a Celsius. So it's a lot of us have to take responsibility. People who've been around for a while and know better need to take some responsibility for that and changing some of that narrative. So like, it's not buying Bitcoin. You're transferring your purchasing power. Instead of storing it in a dollar, instead of storing it in a stock market, or instead of storing it in some real estate, you can take some of that and you can store it in Bitcoin. And then you can diversify that, like you were saying. Maybe you want to keep a couple of dollars. I mean, you still got to pay rent. Maybe your landlord or whatever demands dollars. Taxes, you can only pay in dollars. I'm not telling you necessarily get out of stocks. That might be a different way. But what do? You need, when you say diversify, right? The idea of diversification is spreading out risk. Yeah. Right. And Bitcoin's volatile. All crypto is volatile. Right. And prices, especially on shorter time frames, prices go up and down. So if you need access to that money quickly, Bitcoin probably isn't the answer for you, because it could be up, it could be down from the time you bought it. But if you're looking at a year or years time span, right? Well, now that volatility shrinks, and it's really just steadily going in one direction.
Trending up.
It's trending upwards, right? Which means you're hedging the dollar, for example, which is trending downwards, and not just compared to Bitcoin, compared to most things, but it's volatile. Right now, the dollar is actually pretty powerful. If you had to store your purchasing power today at this block height, the dollar is a good place to be, because inflation, right? Mm-hmm. Everything's going, well, we're in this weird inflationary, printing money, weird economic time. So it's like, even though we're going through this mass inflation, which would actually mean your dollar's getting weaker.
Right.
But there's these incentives from the government to not let that happen, which means the yields you can earn off your dollar, like treasury bonds, or if you do like long, they call them high yield savings accounts, which 3 years ago they were all paying like 1% or less. Now they're paying 4 to 5%. Yeah. So you get more bang for your dollar, right? The dollar's a little bit more powerful right now because there's this massive fight to keep it afloat. But on the long term, that's a desperation move. So your prices are probably going down.
Exactly. That's if you believe that the banks and the government or the dollar are going to come out in a longer time span.
Right.
Like come out on top.
Yep. So you don't want to buy. You want to transfer your purchasing power into a safer asset class.
So, okay, if you were to tell somebody off the street that like, they're like, hey, tell me about you, Nate. And you're like, oh, I buy Bitcoin. What's your new little phrase?
I transfer my purchasing power to Bitcoin.
Yep.
That's what you say?
Sort of, yeah, actually.
I don't want to hear the sort of. I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on it, but I do use that. It's pretty much exactly. I must have just recently said that to
You
Ryan.
said it on too. You said it to all of us.
Yeah.
It's what it is. I'm transferring purchasing power, and now people don't usually know what that means, but that's why I
Right.
like using it, because it makes
Them asking a question.
them ask the question,
Yeah.
and then I can get more into the details. It's
Yeah.
like, well, where do you stave your purchasing power down? They're like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? I was like, what do you use money for? What do you get paid in?
Yeah.
Like dollars, all right. And when your job gives you the dollar, what do you do with it? Well, you
Buy
save it or
groceries
buy
and save
groceries
bills.
or do whatever. Right. It's a way for you to have purchasing power.
You increase ways to get the things you want.
Right. Yeah.
Increase
that's
the
always,
number of ways.
And then eventually you just get to the point of, it's like, all right, now think of, I want you. Most people think they're some type of relatively smart, right?
Yeah. I'm super smart. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm not, but the thing is, all of us can recognize one thing, which is everybody. What is a wealthy person? If you don't know anybody who's sort of wealthy that you consider wealthy, right? Imagine who you consider wealthy, and then ask yourself, all right, they probably get paid in dollars too. Do they store their wealth? Do they keep it in dollars, or do
Yeah.
they do other things?
Do they
What
Scrooge
do wealthy
McDuck
people
it?
do?
Yeah.
Right. And everybody sort of realize. What do you think? What do wealthy people do with
Real
their dollars?
estate, invest, buy businesses, do things to make the dollar go to work.
Right. And
Or buy jewelry.
Yeah.
even jewelry, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, but
appreciate.
that would be like precious metals and gems.
What they don't do is keep it in the dollar. And
Right.
if wealthy
Right.
people aren't keeping their money in a dollar,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be forever poor.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone's going to be these wealthy
Right.
whatever, but
Right.
if you don't want to be poor, you at least
Should be
mimic
modeling. Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't keep it in the dollar, why would you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's sort of how I had that conversation, right? But then when it comes to, okay, well, why Bitcoin or any
Like, why not another one? Yeah.
Why Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And it's, well, a lot of people use the Bitcoin versus gold comparison, right? And there are a lot of similarities, but I'll point out why Bitcoin is, in my opinion, better than gold, which is, out of all the gold we have, right? Let's say you own gold. How much of that actual gold bars, how many of those gold bars, ounces of gold, whatever you have, how many are sitting in your actual possession? How many, pull it out your pocket?
Right.
Oh, you mean, yeah,
Where's the
that's a good
gold
point.
at?
Yeah.
Well, I don't keep
Being
it. All right, well, where
stored
is it?
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
who's
a
storage? In a trust. You might have most people have a
Oh, yeah.
certificate.
That's even
Oh, they don't have the gold.
They don't have the
I
gold.
want my gold bars. Give me my gold bars.
All right,
Yeah, but
if I
then
give you
you-
a gold bar, where are
yeah.
you keeping it?
Yeah.
Where do you trust that you keeping it?
In my under the blankets in my Rubbermaid.
Well, don't trust it anymore.
Okay, so
'cause
what's
now
your
everybody
address?
knows,
Yeah.
right? This is where banks came from. It's hard to custody.
Yeah.
Right. And so you need to trust somebody. And I'm not saying the trust is the issue, but it's like, but now you have to trust. And it's like, well, how do I verify it? Well, they'll tell me. Yeah, but how do you know you can believe them?
Right.
And now it's not even a how do you know. We've seen time and time again
That you should
they will
not.
lie because
Yeah.
people always ultimately come to what best serves them independently, right? And that's the difference with Bitcoin. That's the difference with having a peer-to-peer, decentralized, open source ledger.
Because it
We
removes that
all
trust.
can see it. I don't have to trust you. I don't have to trust that 1 + 1 is 2, right? I can just verify it. And I don't care. Maybe you don't call it 1 + 1, but we can all agree. If you're watching on video, right? If you hold up one finger, if you throw up a single finger, like, I got one of these, and now I have another of these on the other hand. If I put them together, I have this many. I don't need to trust anybody on that.
Nope.
We might disagree on what you call that,
Right.
Yeah.
but you can't disagree. You now have this many. And that's sort of what looking at a peer-to-peer ledger is doing. I don't have to trust your score.
Yeah.
I see my score, your score matches, most of our score matches. None of us made a mistake. We're all wrong which is fine because we're still on the same playing field, or we can easily spot the cheater.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a huge difference between gold or even real estate. And then there's the custodial part of it all, right? Like people go into real estate. Real estate has a limited supply. There's only so much land that a human can live on, right? But the problem is, who owns the real estate?
Whatever
The bank.
state or
Let's say you don't have a mortgage. Let's
federal
let's say you
government.
got the land, no mortgage.
I have the land,
Yeah.
but still, like in the land, like U.S. property or property of.
whoever's in charge.
Whoever's got the biggest bullets
Yeah, the guns, right?
controls the land. You trust that if there is a dispute over your land, the guys with guns will take your side.
Yeah, we'll back you. Yeah.
But what happens when they don't take your side? What do you do when the guys with guns are the ones taking your land?
Right.
So is it really yours? George Carlin, you familiar with George Carlin?
Yes. Yeah.
He's a comedian from like way back from the 60s all the way up through like the 2000s. Great comic.
Yeah.
He's got you can YouTube this. He's got a spiel about how rights, like you ain't got no rights. You don't got no rights, right? You have privileges because if it can get taken away, it's not a right, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
Right? I have a freedom of speech. Well, can they shut you up? Can they throw you in a gulag?
Yep.
You have a privilege of speech.
Yeah.
I have a right
Dang, a
to
comedian
bear
came up with
arms.
that? Wow.
Yeah.
Look him up. He is like
I will.
really George Carlin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
a great spiel. It's funny, but at the same time, it's
Like
very
what?
truthful.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard that a lot. I didn't know that came from.
He's got a lot of other good points that he makes as well. So
Nice.
you'll enjoy that.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
Okay.
So, and this is sort of what we talk about when we talk about like permissionlessness and trustlessness. It's like, all right, well, we still live in this. I hate to sound meme. I should say we live in a society, right? But you live in the society, and it's like we still have to operate. So the question you have, if you as an individual want to have these rights enshrined and not be privileges that can be taken away, you have to build systems that can't be modified.
Yeah.
This is a huge difference on why we use peer-to-peer money, right? I'm trying to avoid the word decentralized because it's not necessarily about the decentralization.
Yeah.
But cash.
And it's not about the blockchain because that's the best way we have to do. Well, I'm not just talking about the cash, it's about the transaction. So let's say you're talking about something like on an Ethereum or something.
Okay.
A whole different network. It's about building peer-to-peer, the ability for two individuals, two peers, to transact with each other in a way without it being interfered with by any third party. No
like no
third party can
middleman.
come in and interfere with it. I want to send you some money. It's from me to you. It's not from me to Chase, who then, for whatever reason, will want to censor that transaction.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, hey, I want to send it, but I need to grab access first. So now I have to beg whoever's holding the custody of my keys, like a Celsius, right? That's exactly where you were at. You're like, I'm ready to take custody. Hey, Celsius, give me my money back. About that.
Yeah. Or
Right?
even if it's a bank and you try to get money out of the ATM, but it's like after 5 and that ATM is broken, but you still need the cash because you got to do something that's really important.
Exactly. DTE, our energy company, might not really care that it's Christmas Day and the banks are closed, or a banking holiday and the banks are closed. You got to pay this bill today.
Yeah.
Yeah, except my local ATM is broke.
They don't care. Yeah.
Who cares, right? So
And the
how
bank
do I
has
do
custody of
this?
your money, so.
Right. How do you do this in a peer-to-peer way without somebody saying no? And that's really what all that's sort of about. And now if you build your core systems like this, you don't have to, it stops becoming so much of a privilege and becomes more of an immutable right.
Yeah.
They can't take that away. This is the idea of an analogy I used to use a lot of times for here in the U.S. Like, the U.S. was founded on principles that are basically the same as Bitcoin's. This is why we don't have a king or a monarch. This is why it's called a government of the people, for the people. It's decentralized, right? Every well, it used to be
Checks and
every
balances.
landowning man, but at this point,
Yeah.
if you're a citizen,
Yeah.
you're supposed to have a say in your local government. We're not a democracy, right? We're a republic, which means we have representative. So I'm not going to be sitting reading every bill myself. I'm going to appoint you to read it on my behalf, and then I'll vote for different people to look at different bills and different things. And if I don't like the way you're interpreting or the decisions you're making, I get rid of you and put somebody new in. It's a decentralized system. The U.S. government is built to be a decentralized system.
Oh boy.
You know
I don't know that I would compare Bitcoin to the government, because the government is hella corrupt.
Well, this is a fear, and this is a critique of Bitcoin, right? When you talk about people talking about mining getting centralized, right?
Yeah.
Now it's not to the point where a lot of the critics like to corner it into. It's not that bad, but at the same token, it's nowhere near perfect.
Yeah.
We've looked at this. You say that every week when we're looking at the mempool space. You're like, oh, look.
It's the same one over and over.
It's the same one. It's like Antpool 1, Foundry 1, whoever one.
Yeah,
whoever.
you
It's
did
the
say
same.
again.
Yeah. But our rebuttal to that is that it's a bunch of little people pointed at this, or the average person pointed at this miner.
Again, yes. This is why it's not as bad as people say. But it's also still not ideal. Right? This was a big difference in something like a platform like Monero. Besides the privacy part of Monero, one of the driving missions of Monero, if you're not familiar, it's another cryptocurrency. It's like Bitcoin in most regards, except it's totally private. Bitcoin is a public ledger. Everybody can see it. Monero is a private ledger. You only get to see. You can only see it, right?
It's for anonymity, I believe, correct? Yeah.
Oh, like anonymous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I always was like, anonymity.
It's anonymity. Forget my point now.
But I mean, why do you have to be anonymous if you? Oh, my bad. What's the point? My bad.
I think you were saying about the government being corrupt and the people.
One of Monero's driving principles. So where Bitcoin, you've now been driven to use these specialized hardware called ASICs, right? Bitcoin mining, it's just a guessing game, right? You're just literally guessing a number. Like the miners spend a lot of energy for their computer to be like, is it 0? No. Is it 1? No. Is it 2? Except where it takes me forever to count, it takes a computer can do billions of guesses per second, right? So Monero's like, well, we want to do the same thing. They're also proof of work. It does a very similar thing, except they make sure that guessing game can always be done on an average computer. So anybody can mine it. Anybody can be a miner. Because in their viewpoint of it all, right, it's the key to decentralization is letting everybody compete easily. You drop the
level of playing field.
Right. And so we can argue that, again, that's another show topic to get into details of, but there's ways to being centralized is a thing, a centralizing force. So just like the U.S. government was built on a principle of being very decentralized, right? Just like Bitcoin is built on a principle. If people are lazy or not educated properly, right, then it's very easy to turn that decentralizing force into a centralizing one. This is at this block height,
like propaganda.
If you look at what happens what's happening with Ethereum at this time in history, this is exactly what they're going through right now. They do proof of stake. They have a single staking pool. It is a bunch of different independent stakers, but at the same token, it controls 30% of the network. Right, and there's a lot of centralizing forces around it. They're looking at new ways to do the staking now, just to stop that from happening before it gets out of hand. It's really easy to centralize something. It's really hard to decentralize.
Ethereum is much more centralized now that it's proof of stake than when it was proof of work.
Yeah. Because even Ethereum, all you had to do, you didn't have they didn't use ASICs either. You could have used not out the box computer, but if you could just go if you had the computer that could run a video game that a gamer would use, you could mine Ethereum, right? And now it's not that's the hard part. It's just that that's a less centralizing force than the current system they're using for proof of stake. is leading to be.
Right.
And again, Bitcoin also faces the same thing. If they don't change some of the things when it comes to the mining, and there are things in works for that, that makes it a more decentralizing force, which makes it harder to centralize. Because it's really easy. Again, it takes very little. A little promise of yield. Who doesn't like free money?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't want free money?
I mean, I don't trust it anymore now.
Well, good. You've learned.
The free money, like the percent. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like there is no such thing. I mean, there's a huge consequence to
Easy money.
easy free money.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, at least.
Yeah.
The high cost of cheap money.
Yeah. Yeah. So as things become more centralized, then does that mean that there's it becomes harder to verify if it's centralized? Or it could be.
Yeah,
it could
be.
Yeah.
This is, again, across many chains. I'll just give the Bitcoin example again. This is why we have very small blocks, right? 1 meg block sizes. You can cheat a little bit, legally cheat a little bit, and get a little extra space in there. But we keep the block small, and we don't want to do smart contracts. There's a fight
when you
against a lot
first
of
started, Ashley was reading it. You said something like, did you say megabytes?
Yeah.
That is pretty small then.
That's like the size of it's smaller than I feel like most photos, right?
Yeah,
Well,
because you got 2
definitely smaller than
megabytes is a thumbnail on YouTube.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, the average song, I know we all stream now, but if you downloaded like an MP3 or an AAC of a song, that's 3 megabytes.
Oh, like from LimeWire or something?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very small, but there's a reason, and there's a line of thinking in the Bitcoin community to make it even smaller. But that line of thinking is, right, everybody's not going to be a miner, right? That's that thinking. But everybody needs to run their own node. It needs to be as easy as possible. If I make the block bigger, that means you need bigger storage devices locally, right? And if you need a bigger storage device, that means you got to pay more for it.
Right.
Well, you can only get so big before it becomes unaffordable for people to run a node, and now it's only Amazon Web Servers and Cloudflare and stuff running a node even.
Right.
Which now we're all trusting them.
Right.
So you keep that block small, and it's the same argument Monero has, except theirs is more like let anybody just mine it, not just be a node. Everybody should just be a miner, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really easy to centralize. And the easiest way to do that is through human greed, which always happens. And, boom.
Yeah, and it would also seem like controlling the education and miseducating people on it to get them to follow your new agenda towards centralization for your own benefit.
Which is why we say, and to my answer for today's question, which is no, don't trust, verify.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to just verify. I can just easily verify. I don't have to trust.
We should do an episode
anything.
one time on how to verify and screen share and run through it if we can. I don't know if we can. Because it's so easy to say, oh, you should just verify it. Okay. But then okay, how do I what am I doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So don't trust, verify. That's the answer I have. And if you disagree with me, I say you go hit us up someplace and tell us you disagree.
Yeah.
But before we do that, I know you were very modest, Ryan, in your intro, but you are a rising star in the boxing community.
For real?
And she doesn't even have to throw fists.
Yeah.
She's not even throwing fists.
Wow.
I'm not throwing fists.
Are you kicking?
I'm not kicking. I am just using my voice. I am a boxing ring announcer. I introduce the boxers. And it's been going pretty good. I'm all over the place doing it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Literally, she's international.
Wow.
So if you're out here into Bitcoin and boxing, see, there's a new meetup we could be doing.
Bitcoin and boxing. We should do it.
We should do it. So you definitely need to go follow Ryan. So tell them how they can go check you out.
Yeah, check me out at Rhyan Neco. That is RHYAN_NECO. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook.
She's got a banging YouTube channel.
I've got a YouTube channel. I am basically interviewing people in the boxing community, but some pretty big, some heavy hitters in the boxing world. And that YouTube channel is Casually Hardcore with Rhyan Neco.
That's right.
Wait, so you do the let's get ready to rumble like that?
Hey,
I'm that guy.
We don't got enough money to pay for that license.
Whoopsies.
It's okay. I am that guy though.
Oh, wow.
But not that guy.
Yeah.
That's Michael Buffer.
Yeah.
Don't say that. And I don't say it because I don't want to get sued to say.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Whoopsies.
Yep. Rhyan is on the way and
That's awesome.
rapidly rising. So go check her out, and if you can't remember any of that, you can check us out. We'll put it in the show notes. And where can they check us out at?
You can find us on Facebook at the Blockument, Twitter or X, YouTube, and theblockument.com. That's where we have resources. We'll probably have a link to find Ryan.
And all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So until next time, don't trust, verify.
That's right.
And if you came for the riches,
Stay for the revolution.
stay for the revolution.
That's right.
Peace.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace.